Según expertos de la Universidad de Auburn, Alabama y la Universidad de Texas, el índice de preñez de burras con caballos es de solo el 20%. Esto debido a que el espermatozoide del caballo en ocasiones no puede penetrar el óvulo de la burra, porque la proteína que cubre el esperma del caballo, llamada acrosoma, no puede penetrar la zona pelúcida o parte externa del óvulo de la burra debido a incompatibilidad de la proteína de las dos especies. Otra de las características de los burdeganos es que les gusta mucho la compañía de los asnales. Esto debido a que su madre fue una burra.
The biggest differences I've found comparing mules to hennies is sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference when you just look at them. So I think the easiest thing to do is to watch their behavior around donkeys and horses, because the hennies tend to go to the donkeys because that was their mom. I've also anatomically, looking at the way that they're made, in my opinion, they tend to be somewhat longer in the loin area, and a henny that begins to age when they get to be 25 or 30 years old, I believe the hips and the croup becomes more similar to a donkey in terms of it becoming more narrow, and the hips and the croup area is more prevalent, just like in a donkey, where I don't see that as much in the mules. They continue to be more round like a horse. I've also noticed more color in the hennies, such as paint hennies, and again, in my opinion, they tend to be much prettier in the face, and sometimes the ears are longer and sometimes they're shorter, but I think that the head and the neck of the henny generally is a lot prettier than a mule. The specific differences we saw looking at the blood parameters in the mules and the hennies together would not per se give them another advantage in terms of moreover health. But one thing that is important, especially with the white blood cells and the red blood cell lines, which are different in the mule and henny compared to the donkey and compared to the horse, those are basically like their line of mechanism to fight off disease. So there could be a benefit in the fact that there's a different concentration. The white blood cells are oftentimes larger in a mule, and I can't tell you for certain in the henny, but they've got a bigger army to fight against disease. And the fact that the red blood cells are also different in their concentrations, that's another line of mechanism to keep them healthy. So looking at those specific blood parameters could contribute to why a henny and mule may be more disease resistant than a horse. Yeah, there's so many misconceptions about hennies, especially in some countries. They believe that hennies are internally, there are problems with their digestive tract or their internal organs. They're much smaller than a mule, or they're not as pretty as a mule, or they're prettier than a mule. And it's those claims are really not true at all. Even a very well-trained eye has a very hard time telling the difference in a mule and a henny. And I've studied as many hennies as possible to notice some of those small details in their anatomy and why they're different. But I've known many hennies that have been world champions, so I think that idea that hennies are not as good as a mule is really wrong. And then I know also there's some communities that prefer hennies over mules. In Baja, California, there's a group of people that work on in a very kind of rough area. There's not a lot of water, and they prefer the henny to the mule because they say they can go longer without water because they're more like the donkey, but stronger than a donkey and quick like a horse. So I think a lot of things out there about hennies, until you really talk to people that own hennies, they're probably not true. So you should talk to someone that owns a henny to really appreciate what a great animal they are.
¿Y cómo olvidar la Lorenza, una de las mejores mulas de pista que ha tenido Colombia? Para los que no sabían, la Lorenza es una mula roma o burdégano. Su madre era una burra y su padre un caballo. Como vemos, no hay diferencia alguna con las demás. Ella se ha destacado por su hermoso fenotipo, desplazamiento y suavidad al andar. La Lorenza es el gran ejemplo que las mulas romas pueden tener la alzada, fenotipo y andar igual a la mula común.
Esperamos les haya gustado el programa sobre los burdéganos o comercialmente conocidos como mula roma. Los esperamos en el próximo capítulo A Lomo de Mula.